Hello, this is Dolence, and today I would like to review analysis concepts for utilizing in healthcare administration. As we have learned from the previous session, healthcare organizations are composed of units or centers. They are revenue, responsibility, and support centers. Whichever type of center that is being looked at, there are ways to analyze data in a meaningful way in order to evaluate performance. This is necessary in order to forecast and make the best decisions possible for the information that is available. In the next few minutes, I would like to go over the following information that can help financial managers in healthcare. Here are the objectives for today. First, I would like to discuss the use, trend analysis, and comparative analysis. We will review a case study so that we can better understand how using comparison sheds light on what actually is occurring. Next, I will review the benefits and challenges associated with the three types of sources of information for forecasts. The third item I will discuss is to ask the question, how do assumptions impact revenue forecasts? Again, we will look at an example in healthcare to gain better understanding of forecasting. Finally, we will examine how common sizing and trend analysis can be used to better understand capacity. To begin with, I would like to go over some important definitions that we will be discussing throughout this presentation. Comparative analysis is a general term that is taking information or data about one item, unit, or organization and generalizing it to another item, unit, or organization. For example, it can be done with a pair of shoes. That is, I have a pair of Nike shoes and you have a pair of Adidas running shoes. We might compare the prices that we each paid for the shoes. Trend analysis is the process of comparing and analyzing figures over several time periods, also known as horizontal analysis. Forecasting is using information for the purpose of planning for the future. Common sizing is transforming monetary units or currency into percentages that can be evaluated on the same relative basis. This is also known as vertical analysis. Think of it that we are trying to compare items on an apple-to-apple basis. By doing this, we can make better judgment on how units are doing compared to other units. Let's first take a look at trend analysis as a comparative analysis. It is common for evaluating data over a period of time. This is exactly what trend analysis does. Most businesses, nonprofit organizations, and governmental entities operate their budgets over a given time. It is usually over a period of a year. However, during the year, management may evaluate periods, most commonly quarters, to see what kind of progress is being done. Trend analysis allows the data to be compared during the certain time period. First, the data is converted into percentages. This allows for an apple-to-apple comparison, as I mentioned earlier, which makes more sense. So, let's take a look at this is done in a case study. The case study is the Crimson Worm Pharmacy. Crimson Worm Pharmacy is a pharmacy retail chain that has been setting up new stores across the West to compete with other chains like Walgreens and Rite Aid. They are developing a niche by creating one-stop shop for health and wellness. They are not considered a general shopping or convenience store because they do not carry typical merchandise or discount items. Rather, Crimson Worm Pharmacy has a pharmacy department along with supportive health and wellness services that focus on holistic medicine. They like to consider themselves a mini medical home at the corner of a neighborhood or shopping center. Their health and wellness team consists of a nurse practitioner, a registered dietitian who is also a certified diabetes educator, a dietitian, a fitness trainer, and 3 certified wellness coaches. They do sell some limited health products and merchandise. For example, they do have some natural food products and probiotics. Let's take a closer look at a trend analysis at one of the Crimson Worm pharmacy stores. Store number 35 is located in the town of God's Country, Colorado. It was built in 2011. A new district manager, Benjamin Tola, was assigned to the Colorado region. Benjamin would like to evaluate the progress of this new store over the first 3 years while being open. By doing so, he hopes that he can allocate necessary resources to ensure that the store is able to thrive. Benjamin performed a trend analysis at store 35 and found some valuable information. As you can see, over the 3-year period, profits had increased as expected with the new pharmacy business. However, he was surprised to see that though the pharmacy department had increased profit, his trend analysis showed that the percentage of profit had decreased a little over 1% since the store opened. This would not have been noticeable by just looking at the profits. He believes that this might be related to the pharmacy customers utilizing more of the other services in 2014 compared to 2012. He was also able to identify services in 2013, marked in red, that decrease in the rates of profits compared to other services the year before. The overall information calmed any fears that he had of Store 35 and gave him solid benchmarking information to compare with in the years to come. This slide shows a bar graph of the same trend analysis. As you can see, a side-by-side comparison of the years. The blue represents 2012, the orange is 2013, and the gray is 2014. The advantage of putting a trend analysis in a graph, such as a bar graph or even a line graph, is that you are able to see the difference much quicker than the chart itself. Let's change topics a little and discuss forecasting. Financial managers use forecasting to plan the future. They would include developing next year's budget, special projects, or even what-if scenarios using computer software programs. It is easy to confuse forecasting with projections. However, remember that forecasting is much shorter term and in relation to realistic assumptions. Projections, on the other hand, are more long-term and taking into account assumptions regarding future events, projects, and operations. Consider our study about Crimson Worm Pharmacy. If the district manager, Benjamin, was evaluating the finances to see if it is feasible to hire a pharmacist based on the profit that the store is bringing in, what would that be? Forecast or projection? If you said forecast, you're absolutely right. On the other hand, if Benjamin sat down and was looking at all the profits coming in over the past 3 years and evaluating the possibility of starting another store in a nearby community based on the assumption that all the stores were making a minimum of 2.7%, then would that be forecast or would that be projection? If you said projection, then you're right again. At this point, I would like to look specifically at forecasting. Forecasting typically is associated with 3 sources of information and assumptions. They are first level, second level, and third level. Let's take a look at each one. The first level is involving employees who work in the department or program. These are the employees who are engaged in the day-to-day operations of the service or product. Receiving input from these employees is important because they can provide important ground-level details. For example, the employees at Crimson Worm Pharmacy are the ones who interact with the customers. They often hear the positive and negative comments regarding the services they are receiving. Many organizations utilize patient satisfaction or customer service surveys just for this reason. Second level is the next source of information. This typically requires mining for data from the information technology systems and statistically analyzing the data. This can be a valuable resource of information. Today's technology can provide a wealth of information. However, it is important to use relevant information and not get bogged down by information that would distort what you are trying to portray. Another second level information is important because it provides valuable benchmarking information for comparative analysis. This level is common and used trend analysis for it. When evaluating information, financial and clinical managers are able to identify problems or concerns in the forecasting. When confronted with these barriers, they are able to use the Plan, Do, Study, Act, or which is also known as PDSA. This is a system of series of steps that gain valuable learning and valuable information to continually improve the product in the process. This is a common procedure used in healthcare organizations across America that was developed by Dr. Edward Deming. Another consideration is that statistically analyzing the data or even extracting it in a way that is understandable can be time intensive. It's like the saying, garbage in, garbage out. So just be aware of what you are trying to engage in this second level approach. The next source of information is called the third level. This level is the executive level analysis that usually presents as a rough draft. Think of this as the 20,000 foot above Earth view where the leadership can look at the entire landscape. At this point, critical analysis and decision-making processes are applied to real-world factors including local, internal, and external. These may include such factors as high competition, failure of technology, labor unrest, inflation, recession, and changing government laws. At this point, all the information, research, and data analyzed are synthesized into a concrete plan. Other challenges to be aware of during this level are worth mentioning. They are lack of marketing assessment, also disconnecting revenues and expenses, ignoring debt covenants, and finally ignoring cash flow budgets. If management can avoid these pitfalls, then forecasts can be more accurate. Let's take a look at revenue forecast assumptions. There are 5 assumptions that are important to be aware of when considering revenue generation for healthcare administrations. These 5 forecast assumptions are utilization assumptions, patient mix assumptions, contractual allowance assumptions, trend analysis assumptions, and payer change assumptions. We will take a closer look at each one of these in the next few slides. Utilization assumptions need to be taken into consideration as healthcare utilization patterns are constantly changing. This can be a result of healthcare trends or even changes in law. Think about the changes initiated by the Affordable Care Act. One goal of the Affordable Care Act is to increase the number of individuals with insurance. As a result, more people will have health insurance and may very well see more utilization rates in other areas and some in areas such as preventive services. Patient mix assumptions are considering what common payer types are using the system. These include Medicaid, Medicare, private insurances, and self-pay. Back to the Affordable Care Act, as an example, the expansion of Medicaid is occurring in most states. As more individuals are able to qualify for Medicaid, some practices are seeing a change in patient mix. Contractual allowances are agreed upon rates for the same services that can change over time. It is the difference of gross charges and the allowed charges. Each healthcare organization will have its own contracts and annually need to be evaluated on those changes and how they impact the forecasts. Lower contracted rates will result in less expected revenue. Trend analysis assumptions, as discussed previously, simply is identifying patterns over a period of time, then making necessary compensation to account for them in the future. Finally, payer change assumption should be considered as prospective and usually occurs with regulatory or third-party contract changes. Again, the Affordable Care Act would be regulatory changes that people should anticipate for. Capacity levels are also important to consider for forecasting staffing levels. Additionally, space and equipment needs to be considered in the analysis. This can be a fine line, especially for newer businesses and services. This is because too many staff can create overcapacity and decrease total profit. On the other hand, undercapacity would create unnecessary staff burnout and difficulty retaining staff. This is when common sizing and trend analysis can be used to better forecast capacity. Back to our case study with Crimson Worm Pharmacy. District Manager Benjamin Tola has decided to forecast whether Store 35 should hire another pharmacist. At the time, he did not want to create overcapacity with the newer store. When he previously performed the trend analysis, he noticed a slight decrease of revenue brought in by the pharmacy compared to the other services. See Chart 1. By hiring another pharmacist, he believes that they would be able to expand hours during the week and capture additional prescriptions from the nearby urgent care that remains open till 8 p.m. Benjamin first conducts a first-level review. In his first-level review, he interviews each pharmacy personnel, including the pharmacists and the pharmacy technicians. They were able to provide him good feedback on the daily operations that were occurring. Next, he looked at the workload data generated from the IT. This presented trend analysis of the prescription volume per hour. You can see the differences in Chart 2. From this information, he was able to draft the proposal to present to the Board of Directors. Later that month, the Crimson Worm Pharmacy Board of Directors had their quarterly meeting. Mr. Tola presented his forecast proposal for the staffing plan at Store 35. Based on the data analysis and revenue forecast assumptions presented, the board approved additional pharmacy staff that would enable the pharmacy to remain open 2 extra hours until 8 p.m. This would allow them to fill prescriptions from the urgent care center and finish the rest of the prescription load from the previous part of the day before closing time. The board did, however, decline to authorize opening a new store in the nearby town as there was inconclusive support when they evaluated the projections submitted by Mr. Tola. In summary, and as demonstrated by the case study, forecasting is very important for healthcare administrators. In order to provide good, reliable forecasting, managers need to become well acquainted with such tools as common sizing and trend analysis. Additionally, being able to utilize the various assumptions appropriately will make those forecasts more reliable and profitable for the organizations. Thank you for watching this presentation, and please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.